The Grand Chamber. The Galactic Council chamber was enormous. Its ceiling stretched so high that it disappeared into darkness. Holographic stars floated in the air, representing every member species of the galactic community. Thousands of alien delegates filled the tiered seats, their various forms creating a bizarre collection of shapes, colors, and sizes. At the center of the chamber stood 3 human representatives. They wore simple diplomatic uniforms, dark blue with Earth's symbol on the shoulder. Ambassador Sarah Chin stood in the middle, flanked by her 2 advisors. They looked small and fragile compared to the massive alien beings surrounding them. The air hummed with tension. Today was not a normal session. Today was a trial. High Chancellor Vorn presided over the council from his elevated platform. He was a Krillian, a species that looked like a massive centipede standing upright. His segmented body gleamed under the chamber's lights. His many legs clicked against the metal floor as he moved. When he spoke, his voice boomed through hidden speakers, amplified to fill the vast space. This emergency session of the Galactic Council is now in order, Vorn announced. His voice carried the weight of absolute authority. We are gathered to address the human problem. Sarah's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. Beside her, advisor Marcus Kim shifted his weight nervously. The third human, Dr. Elena Volkov, stood perfectly still, her face showing no emotion. The accusations. Humans, Vorn continued, have been members of this council for only 50 years. In that short time, they have caused more disruption than any species in recorded history. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Sarah could hear the clicks, hisses, and strange sounds that passed for conversation among the various species. A Zytherian delegate stood up. The crystalline being's body refracted light into rainbow patterns as it spoke. Humans ignore established trade routes. They negotiate directly with individual planets, undermining the Council's economic framework. Another delegate rose, this one a Morgothi, a being made entirely of purple gas contained in a force field suit. Humans question our decisions. They vote against measures that have been standard practice for millennia. They disrupt the order we have maintained for 10,000 years. More voices joined in. The Velcrin representative, a spider-like creature with 12 eyes, complained about human military expansion. The Toral delegate, a floating jellyfish-like being, protested human cultural influence spreading to younger species. Sarah listened to each accusation. Some were true. Some were exaggerated. None were crimes. The defense. Finally, Vorn raised one of his many appendages for silence. The chamber quieted immediately. Ambassador Chin, you may speak in humanity's defense. Sarah stepped forward. Her voice was calm and clear, amplified by the same system that carried Vorn's words. Honored council members, humanity stands accused of disrupting the order. This is true. We have questioned old ways. We have proposed new methods. We have refused to simply accept things because they have always been done that way. She looked around the chamber, making eye contact with as many delegates as possible. But we have broken no laws. We have violated no treaties. We have acted within our rights as council members. Our only crime, it seems, is being different. Being new. Being unwilling to simply follow without understanding. The Zytherian delegate's crystalline form flashed with angry red light. You speak of rights, but you ignore tradition. You disrespect the wisdom of elder species. We respect wisdom, Sarah replied. But we question assumptions. There is a difference. Vorn's many legs clicked in what might have been irritation. The council does not appreciate your tone, Ambassador. Perhaps this is exactly the problem. Humans do not know their place. Sarah's eyes narrowed. Our place is as equal members of this council. Or so we were told when we joined. The vote. Enough, Vorn declared. His voice cut through the rising murmurs like a blade. The council has heard sufficient argument. We will now vote on the resolution before us. Resolution 7749, the immediate expulsion of humanity from the Galactic Council and banishment from Council space. Sarah's heart sank. She had known this was coming, but hearing it stated so clearly still hurt. All in favor of expulsion, Vorn said. Lights began appearing throughout the chamber. Each delegate's seat had a voting mechanism. As each species voted, their holographic star changed color. Red for yes, blue for no. The chamber filled with red stars. One after another, species voted for humanity's expulsion. The Krillians, the Zytherians, the Morgothi, the Velcrin, the Toral. Species after species all voting the same way. A few blue stars appeared. The Dalari, a younger species, voted no. The Ixan, who had worked closely with human traders, voted no. The Planthori abstained, their star turning gray. But the overwhelming majority glowed red, like blood in the water. Sarah watched the vote tally appear on the central display. 847 votes for expulsion. 23 votes against. 34 abstentions. The resolution passes, Vorn announced. There was something almost like satisfaction in his voice. Humanity is hereby expelled from the Galactic Council. All human vessels must leave Council space within 10 standard days. All human embassies will be closed. All trade agreements are void. All diplomatic relations are severed. He paused, letting the words sink in. Humanity is banished. The reaction. The chamber erupted in various forms of celebration. Some species made clicking sounds. Others released pheromones of satisfaction. A few actually cheered in their own languages. Sarah stood perfectly still, absorbing the moment. 50 years of careful diplomacy. 50 years of trying to find humanity's place in the galactic community. All of it ending in less than an hour. Marcus looked devastated. Elena's face remained neutral, but Sarah could see the tension in her shoulders. Vorn looked down at the three humans from his elevated platform. You have 10 days, Ambassador Chin. Use them wisely. Gather your people and leave. The galaxy has no place for your kind. Sarah met his many-eyed gaze without flinching. When she spoke, her voice was steady. We will leave as requested, High Chancellor. We will comply with the Council's decision. But I want it recorded that humanity did nothing wrong. We were punished for being different. For asking questions. For refusing to bow to tradition without reason. Your objection is noted and dismissed, Vorn replied. Guards, escort the humans from this chamber. They are no longer welcome here. The exit. Armored security personnel approached. They were Krillians like Vorn, their segmented bodies covered in ceremonial armor. They formed a circle around the three humans, not touching but making their purpose clear. Sarah took one last look around the chamber. At the species who had voted them out. At the few who had stood with them. At the massive space that represented the power and authority of the galactic community. Then she turned and walked toward the exit, her head held high. Marcus and Elena followed. The Krillian guards walked beside them, escorting them from the chamber like criminals. As the doors closed behind them, Sarah heard the council session continue. They were already moving on to the next item of business. Humanities. Expulsion was done. Finished. Humanity was already forgotten. Or so they thought. What the Galactic Council didn't know, what they couldn't possibly understand, was that they had just made the biggest mistake in their 10,000-year history. They were about to learn exactly what humanity had been doing for them all along. And they were about to learn it the hard way. The news spread across human settlements like wildfire. Every human colony, every station, every outpost in council space received the same message. Pack up. Shut down. Leave within 10 days. Captain David Torres stood on the observation deck of Gateway Station, humanity's largest facility in council space. The station orbited a strategic trade junction, a crossroads where dozens of shipping lanes intersected. For 30 years, Gateway had served as humanity's hub for commerce, diplomacy, and cultural exchange. Now it was being abandoned. How many people do we have to evacuate? David asked his second-in-command, Lieutenant Amara Okonkwo. Amara checked her datapad. 47,000 humans across all council space. Scientists, traders, diplomats, families, students. Some have lived here for decades. This is their home. David watched through the viewport as ships began arriving. Human vessels of all sizes coming to collect their people. Cargo haulers, passenger liners, military escorts. The evacuation fleet was assembling. What about our assets? David asked. The research stations? The trade posts? The medical facilities? Council decree says we leave everything behind, Amara replied bitterly. No compensation. No buyout. They're just taking it all. David's hands formed fists. Gateway Station alone was worth billions. Humanity had invested enormous resources building these facilities. Now they were being seized without payment. And they call us the disruptive ones, he muttered. Down in the station's commercial district, Dr. James Park was closing his medical clinic. For 15 years, he had run the only facility in the sector that could treat multiple species. His staff included humans, yes, but also Dalari nurses, an Ixian pharmacist, and a Planthori surgeon. The Dalari nurse, Tila, had tears running down her fur-covered face. Dr. Park, what will happen to our patients? The council species don't understand multi-species medicine like you do. James packed another box of medical equipment. They'll figure it out, Tila. They'll have to. But the Velkan patient with the rare condition, the one you've been treating for 3 years, he'll die without your medication protocol. James stopped packing. His shoulders sagged. I know. I've sent all my research to the Council medical database. Maybe someone will continue the work. No one else cared enough to try, Tila said quietly. Only humans thought it was worth the effort to save one patient from a species they'd never met before. Across the sector, similar scenes played out. Human teachers saying goodbye to alien students. Human engineers training replacements for systems they'd built. Human traders settling accounts, often at a loss because there wasn't time to negotiate fair prices. The Council species watched the exodus with satisfaction. Some were openly celebrating. On the Krillian homeworld, Chancellor Vorn gave an interview to the galactic news networks. His segmented body coiled with pleasure. Humanity's departure marks a return to proper order. The younger species were becoming infected with human ideas. Questioning. Debating. Refusing to accept their place. Now that influence will be removed. The interviewer, a Zytherian journalist, asked, some analysts worry about gaps in certain services. Humans ran many specialized operations. Vorn's mandibles clicked dismissively. Nothing humans did cannot be done by Council species. We managed perfectly well for 10,000 years before they arrived. We will manage perfectly well after they leave. Back at Gateway Station, the evacuation was proceeding smoothly. Too smoothly, some thought. The Council had expected resistance, protests, maybe even violence. Instead, humans were complying with quiet efficiency. Sarah Chin arrived at the station on day 5. She walked through the emptying corridors, seeing the signs of hasty departure everywhere. Abandoned furniture. Sealed storage units. Walls where pictures had hung, now showing only clean squares against faded paint. She met David in the command center. Status. 90% evacuated, David reported. The last ships leave in 4 days. We'll be under the deadline. Any incidents? None. Our people are angry but they're following orders. We're leaving peacefully just like you promised the Council we would. Sarah nodded. Good. That's important. David looked at her carefully. You don't seem upset. Oh, I'm upset, Sarah said. I'm furious. But I'm also patient. She smiled and there was something cold in that smile. The Council thinks they're rid of a problem. They're about to discover they've created one. What do you mean? Sarah pulled up a holographic display. It showed Council space with markers indicating human positions. As she manipulated the image, the markers began disappearing. Humans leaving. Watch what happens when we're gone, David. Just watch. On day 7, the first cracks appeared. Small ones. Barely noticeable. The Zytherian Merchant Guild reported delays in shipping routes. The automated traffic control systems that humans had maintained were malfunctioning. Council technicians were trying to fix them, but the systems were more complex than they'd realized. The Velkran military complained that their intelligence network had gaps. Human analysts had been identifying patterns, predicting threats. Without them, the data was just noise. The Toro Medical Consortium discovered that several experimental treatments had been dependent on human research. The humans had taken their knowledge with them. But these were small problems. Manageable. The Council wasn't worried yet. On day 9, Gateway Station powered down for the last time. The massive facility went dark, its reactors shut down, its systems locked. David Torres was the last human aboard. He took one final walk through the empty corridors, his footsteps echoing in the silence. In the command center, he initiated the final shutdown sequence. Screens went black one by one. Life support switched to minimal emergency mode. The station's great heart stopped beating. David stood alone in the darkness, lit only by emergency lights. Goodbye, Gateway, he whispered. You were a good home. Then he boarded the last shuttle and left. On day 10, exactly on schedule, the final human vessel crossed the boundary of Council space. Captain Sarah Chin stood on the bridge of the diplomatic ship Endeavour, watching the border marker appear on her view screen. All human vessels have cleared Council space, her navigator reported. We are the last. Sarah took a deep breath. 50 years of human presence in the galaxy. 50 years of building, trading, learning, teaching. All of it left behind. Take us home, she ordered. Set course for Earth. The Endeavour's engines engaged. The ship turned away from Council space and headed toward the outer spiral arm. Toward that small blue planet where humanity had started. Toward isolation. Behind them, Council space continued its normal operations. Ships moved along trade routes. Stations hummed with activity. Planets turned in their orbits. Everything seemed fine. Everything seemed normal. But deep in the complex systems that kept galactic civilization running, tiny problems were beginning to appear. Little failures. Small inefficiencies. Minor breakdowns. Nothing serious yet. Just the first symptoms of a fatal disease. The Council had 10,000 years of experience. They had technology beyond human understanding. They had millions of species working together. But they had just exiled the one species that had been holding everything together. And they didn't even know it yet. 3 weeks after humanity's departure, the problems were no longer small. Chancellor Vorn sat in his private office reviewing reports. His many legs shifted with increasing agitation as he read each one. This was supposed to be a time of celebration. Humanity was gone. Order was restored. The galaxy could return to proper functioning. Instead, everything was falling apart. His communicator chimed. It was Minister Drax, head of the Galactic Trade Commission. The Morgathy's purple gas swirled violently inside his containment suit, a sign of extreme stress. Chancellor, we have a crisis, Drax said without preamble. 17 major shipping routes are experiencing critical delays. Cargo is backing up at transfer stations. Some shipments have been waiting for 2 weeks. Vorn's mandibles clicked in irritation. What? We have thousands of traffic controllers. Deploy them. We have deployed them, Drax replied. But the routes were optimized by human logistics specialists. They created algorithms that balanced traffic flow across multiple sectors simultaneously. Our controllers are trying to manage routes individually. It's not working. The whole system is becoming congested. Then recreate the human algorithms. We're trying, Chancellor. But the humans took their proprietary software with them. And even with the basic framework they left behind, we don't understand how they made it work. They were balancing variables we didn't even know existed. Vorn dismissed the call and moved to the next report. This one was from the Galactic Health Organization. The news was worse. 4 disease outbreaks across 3 sectors. Normally manageable situations. But the GHO was struggling because their best epidemiologists had been human. The humans had a strange talent for seeing patterns in infection spread, for predicting outbreak trajectories, for developing containment strategies. The Council species were treating each outbreak as an isolated incident. The humans had understood they were all connected, part of larger environmental changes. Without that insight, the diseases were spreading faster than containment efforts could manage. The next report made Vorn's entire body tense. Military intelligence. The Velcron Defense Network had failed to detect 3 separate pirate raids. The raiders had struck mining operations in the outer sectors, killed workers, stolen valuable materials, and escaped undetected. Oh. Because human analysts had been monitoring communication patterns, identifying suspicious ship movements, flagging potential threats before they materialized. The Velcron had relied on that early warning system without even realizing it. Now, without it, they were blind. More reports flooded in. Research projects stalling because human scientists had been the ones pushing unconventional approaches. Diplomatic incidents escalating because human mediators had been quietly resolving tensions before they became public. Infrastructure failures because human engineers had been maintaining systems in ways that prevented cascading breakdowns. Every report told the same story. Humans had been everywhere, doing everything, holding the galaxy together in 1,000 invisible ways. And now they were gone. On the Zytherian homeworld, Administrator Quill faced a riot. The crystalline being's light patterns flickered with panic as angry citizens surrounded the government complex. The cause was simple. Food shipments had stopped arriving on schedule. The Zytherians depended on imports from agricultural worlds 3 sectors away. The shipments had always arrived like clockwork. Always on time. Always fresh. But the shipping routes were congested now. Ships were delayed. Food was spoiling in transit. Prices were rising. People were hungry. This is unacceptable, the crowd shouted. We demand action. Quill tried to explain about traffic control problems, about system inefficiencies, about the transition period after humanity's departure. The crowd didn't care. They wanted food and they wanted it now. Similar riots were breaking out on a dozen worlds. The Council space, so orderly and calm for millennia, was beginning to fracture. In the Dalari system, young Tila sat in a medical facility watching a patient die. The same patient Dr. Park had been treating. The Velkin with the rare condition. The Council doctors had tried to follow the humans' research, But they didn't understand it fully. The treatment had failed. Tila wept as the Velkin's family gathered around the bed. This death was preventable. One human doctor could have saved this life. One human doctor who had been forced to leave because the council didn't want humans asking uncomfortable questions. The galactic news networks were starting to notice. Reports filled the broadcast. Trade disruptions, health crises, security failures, infrastructure breakdowns. All of it starting exactly when humanity left. Some journalists began asking uncomfortable questions. Is there a connection? Did humanity's departure cause these problems? Council officials denied it vehemently. Nonsense, they declared. These are temporary difficulties. Coincidental timing. We are adjusting to new procedures. Everything will stabilize soon. But week 5 arrived and things got worse, not better. The Krillian industrial sector reported power grid failures. Rolling blackouts affected millions. The grid had always been stable before. What changed? Investigation revealed that human engineers had been monitoring grid stress patterns, performing predictive maintenance, preventing failures before they happened. The Krillians had excellent engineers, but they performed maintenance on schedules, not predictions. They fixed problems after they appeared, not before. Now problems were appearing faster than they could be fixed. The Toral financial markets crashed. Stock values plummeted as traders panicked over the mounting crises. The markets had always been volatile, but human economists had provided stability analysis, risk assessments, and trend predictions that kept wild swings manageable. Without those assessments, traders were operating blind. Fear drove decisions. The market spiraled downward. Week 7 brought the catastrophe everyone had been dreading. The Morgothi core stations went critical. There were 5 core stations scattered across Council space, massive structures that regulated subspace communication. Every message, every data transmission, every piece of information flowing through the galaxy passed through these stations. They were the nervous system of galactic civilization. And they were failing. Station Commander Rylax stood in the control center of Core Station 3, watching his displays turn red one by one. The Morgothi's purple gas churned violently inside his containment suit. Around him, technicians worked frantically, trying to stabilize systems that were deteriorating faster than they could respond. Communications bandwidth dropping to 40%, one technician reported. Subspace relay nodes overheating, another called out. Backup systems are offline. Primary systems are reaching critical temperature. Rylax had been a station commander for 30 years. He had never seen anything like this. The core stations were supposed to be indestructible. They had operated flawlessly for 5,000 years. What's causing this? He demanded. His chief engineer, a Krillian named Vex, brought up diagnostic data. The load balancing is failing. Communication traffic is routing inefficiently. Some nodes are handling 10 times their optimal load while others sit nearly idle. The distribution is all wrong. Fix it, Rylax ordered. I'm trying, Vex said, his mandibles clicking with stress. But I don't understand how it was working before. The routing algorithms are incredibly complex. They're adaptive, predictive, they account for variables I can't even identify. Then Vex stopped. His many eyes widened. Commander, I found something. Human code. Buried deep in the core systems. They were managing the load distribution. Not the automated systems. Humans. Rylax felt cold despite the station's rising temperature. How long has this been happening? According to the logs, 43 years. Since shortly after humans joined the Council. They identified inefficiencies in our systems and quietly fixed them. We never even knew. Can we recreate their work? Vex's legs sagged. Not quickly enough. This station will fail within hours. When it does, 1/5 of galactic communications will go dark. Rylax immediately contacted the other core stations. The responses confirmed his worst fears. All 5 stations were experiencing the same cascading failures. All 5 had been secretly maintained by human programmers. All 5 were now dying. Within 2 hours, Core Station 5 went offline. A massive section of Council space lost all subspace communications. Planets couldn't contact each other. Ships couldn't coordinate. Governments couldn't function. 1 trillion beings were suddenly isolated. Panic spread like wildfire. Chancellor Vorn stood in the council chamber facing an angry mob of delegates. Security guards lined the walls, prepared for violence. The chamber's order had completely broken down. You did this, the Zytherian delegate screamed at Vorn. You insisted we expel humanity. You said we didn't need them. I voted based on council consensus, Vorn protested. You guided that consensus, the Velcrin representative shouted. You convinced us humans were the problem. Now look at us. Our civilization is collapsing. One core station is down, the Plenthori delegate added, their jellyfish body pulsing dark colors. 4 more will follow. When that happens, galactic communication ends. We will be scattered, isolated, helpless. We will fix the stations, Vorn said, but his voice lacked conviction. With what? The Ixian delegate demanded. We don't have the knowledge. We don't have the skills. We expelled the only species that could help us. The Dalari delegate stood, her small furry form trembling with rage. My world has lost 30,000 lives to the disease outbreak. 30,000 deaths that could have been prevented if human doctors were still here. How many more will die, Chancellor? How many before you admit we were wrong? The chamber erupted in shouts. Species accusing each other. Delegates demanding Vorn's resignation. Others calling for emergency measures. But beneath the chaos, beneath the anger, there was fear. Real primal fear. The kind that comes when you realize the ground beneath you is crumbling and there's nothing to hold on to. Minister Drax pushed through the crowd to reach Vorn. Chancellor, I need to speak with you privately. Now. They retreated to a side chamber. Drax sealed the door behind them. We just received reports from the outer sectors, Drax said. The Kresh are mobilizing. Vorn's entire body went rigid. The Kresh were a hostile empire beyond Council borders. For centuries they had been contained by Council military strength and intelligence networks. But those networks had been partially run by humans. How many ships? Vorn asked. At least 300. Maybe more. Our intelligence is incomplete because our analysts are overwhelmed. The Kresh are taking advantage of our chaos. Where are they headed? The Dalari system is vulnerable right now. Weakened defenses. Communication problems. If the Kresh attack, the Dalari won't be able to coordinate a defense. Vorn thought of the Dalari delegate's words. 30,000 dead from disease. Now her entire species faced extinction from an enemy attack they couldn't properly defend against. Deploy our fleets, Vorn ordered. Our fleets are scattered, dealing with pirate raids and security failures. We can't coordinate a proper response without the core stations. Chancellor, we don't have the capability to save them. Then what do you suggest? Drax was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his purple gas swirled with resignation. We need to contact humanity. We need to ask them to come back. The words hung in the air like poison. After everything. After the trial. After the expulsion. After forcing 47,000 humans to abandon their homes and lives. After seizing their property. After celebrating their departure. Now they needed to go crawling back, begging for help. The Council will never agree, Vorn said. The Council will agree or the Council will die, Drax replied bluntly. Chancellor, in the past 7 weeks, we have lost more lives, more resources, more stability than in the previous century. Our civilization is in freefall. Pride is a luxury we can no longer afford. Vorn knew Drax was right. Every report confirmed it. Every crisis proved it. The galaxy needed humanity. Not wanted. Needed. How do we even contact them? Vorn asked. We expelled them. They're outside our space. We send a ship. A fast one. With a message. Drax paused. A message of apology. And a desperate plea for help. Vorn imagined facing Ambassador Sarah Chin again. Imagining admitting they had been wrong. Imagining begging for mercy from the species they had judged inferior. His pride rebelled against it. His dignity screamed no. But outside the chamber, another core station alarm sounded. Station 4 was failing now. More communication going dark. More chaos spreading. Prepare the message, Vorn said quietly. Send it to Earth. Tell them we made a mistake. Tell them we need their help. And if they refuse? Vorn had no answer. What could they offer? What leverage did they have? Humanity owed them nothing. Humanity had every reason to watch the Council burn. Then we pray, Vorn said finally, that humans are more merciful than we were. The message drone arrived at Earth 3 days later. It was detected immediately by orbital defense platforms. Human ships moved to intercept, weapons charged, ready for any threat. But the drone transmitted Council identification codes and a white flag protocol. A request for peaceful communication. On Earth, in the capital city of Geneva, Ambassador Sarah Chin sat in her office when the alert came through. She had been expecting this. Not hoping for it. Expecting it. The Council has sent a message, her assistant informed her. Priority 1. Eyes only. Marked urgent. Sarah took the data chip and inserted it into her secure terminal. The holographic image of Chancellor Vorn appeared above her desk. He looked terrible. His segmented body seemed to sag. His mandibles trembled slightly. Ambassador Chin, Vorn's recorded voice began. There was no arrogance now. No authority. Just exhaustion and desperation. I speak to you on behalf of the Galactic Council. We have made a grave error. Sarah leaned back in her chair, her expression unreadable. Vorn's image continued. In the 7 weeks since humanity's departure, our civilization has experienced cascading failures across all major systems. Trade routes are collapsing. Disease is spreading unchecked. Our communication infrastructure is dying. Our security has been compromised. He paused, and Sarah could see how much it cost him to continue. We understand now that humanity was not disrupting our order. You were maintaining it. Your people were integrated into our systems in ways we never recognized. And now that you are gone, we are falling apart. Vorn's many eyes closed briefly. We were wrong to expel you. Wrong to judge you. Wrong to exile your people from the homes they had built. We acted out of pride and fear. We saw your questions as threats rather than as the valuable insights they were. The Chancellor's image seemed to diminish further. Ambassador Chin, I am here to formally request that humanity return to Council space. We need your help. We need your expertise. We need your people to repair the damage and restore the systems that are failing. The Dalari face extinction. Billions of lives are at risk. I am begging you to help us. The message ended. Sarah sat in silence for a long moment. Then she called her senior staff together. Within the hour, Earth's leadership assembled in the conference room. President Adeyemi, Defense Minister Zhang, Chief Scientist Dr. Okafor, and a dozen other key figures. Sarah played the message for them. The room erupted in reactions. After everything they did to us? Defense Minister Zhang said angrily. After forcing our people to abandon their lives? After seizing our property? Now they want our help. They deserve to suffer the consequences, Dr. Okafor added. Let them fix their own problems. President Adeyemi held up a hand for silence. Sarah, what's your assessment? Sarah pulled up data on the main display. Reports from human intelligence assets who had been monitoring Council space. The information painted a grim picture. The situation is worse than Vorn admitted, Sarah said. 3 core stations are completely offline now. 2 more will fail within days. If all 5 go down, galactic communication ends completely. What we're looking at isn't just a crisis. It's a potential dark age. That's not our problem anymore, Zhang argued. It becomes our problem when billions start dying, Sarah replied quietly. The Dalari helped us. Voted against our expulsion. They don't deserve to be slaughtered by the Kresh because the Council's intelligence network failed. What about everyone who voted to exile us? Another official demanded. Do they deserve our help? No, Sarah admitted. They don't deserve it. But there are trillions of ordinary citizens who had no say in the Council's decision. Children. Families. Innocent people who are suffering because their leaders made a terrible choice. President Adeyemi studied the data. What would it take to stabilize the situation? Full deployment, Sarah said. Send our specialists back. Engineers to fix the core stations. Doctors to handle the outbreaks. Analysts to restore security. Logistics experts to unjam the trade routes. Thousands of our people working across Council space. And what do we get in return? Zhang asked. What's our price? That was the question, wasn't it? Humanity had been wronged. Expelled unjustly. Stripped of assets worth billions. Humiliated in front of the entire galaxy. What price would be fair? Sarah thought about Captain Rivera's story. About choosing to see life instead of just seeing enemies. About mercy being strength, not weakness. But she also thought about leverage. About negotiating position. About making sure this never happened again. I have a proposal, Sarah said. The next day Earth sent its response. Not a message drone. An actual ship. The diplomatic vessel Endeavour with Ambassador Chen aboard, returning to Council space. When the Endeavour arrived at the Council Central Station, Chancellor Vorn was waiting personally. He stood at the docking bay with a full honor guard. But there was nothing honorable about this moment. It was surrender and everyone knew it. Sarah walked down the ramp, her expression neutral. Vorn approached, his body language showing complete submission. Ambassador Chen, thank you for coming. Thank you for considering. We need to talk, Sarah interrupted. Privately. Now. They went to a secure conference room. Just Sarah, Vorn, and Minister Drax. Sarah activated a privacy field and placed a data chip on the table. These are humanity's terms, she said. Non-negotiable. Vorn reached for the chip with a trembling appendage. We will agree to whatever. Read them first, Sarah said. Vorn loaded the chip. His eyes widened as he read, then widened further. By the end his entire body was trembling. These terms are extreme, he whispered. These terms are fair, Sarah corrected. You expelled us without cause, seized our property, humiliated our people. Now you want our help. This is the price. Drax looked at the terms and his purple gas swirled with agitation. The Council will never accept this. You're demanding. I'm demanding accountability, Sarah interrupted. I'm demanding that what happened to humanity never happens to any species again. I'm demanding a real voice, not just membership. I'm demanding justice. Vorn's mandibles clicked nervously. If I bring these terms to the Council, they will call it blackmail. Then call it blackmail, Sarah said coldly. But while you debate semantics, your core stations are failing. Your people are dying. The Kresh are preparing to attack. Every hour you delay costs lives. She stood up. You have 12 hours to accept our terms. If you refuse, we return to Earth. You can save yourselves. Or try to. Sarah walked to the door, then paused and looked back. Chancellor Vorn, you once said humanity doesn't know its place. You were right. Our place isn't as your servants or your subordinates. Our place is as your equals. Or we don't come back at all. She left the room. Vorn sat in silence, staring at the terms displayed on his screen. Drax waited. What do we do? Drax finally asked. Vorn thought about the failing stations. The dying Dalari. The collapsing civilization. The alternatives to accepting humanity's demands. There were no alternatives. We accept, he said quietly. All of it. We have no choice. 11 hours later, Chancellor Vorn stood before the Galactic Council once again. The chamber was packed. Every species wanted to witness this moment. Some with hope. Others with dread. The holographic display showed humanity's terms for everyone to see. Vorn's voice was steady as he read them aloud, though his body language showed defeat. Term 1. Humanity will be granted permanent seats on the Galactic Council's Executive Board. 3 human representatives with veto power over expulsion votes. No species can be removed from the Council without human approval. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Executive Board had always been controlled by the oldest, most powerful species. Humans would now be their equals. Term 2. All human property seized during the expulsion will be returned immediately. Additionally, the Council will pay reparations of 5 trillion galactic credits for damages and losses incurred. Several delegates gasped. 5 trillion credits was an enormous sum. Term 3. The Galactic Council will establish the Office of Species Protection. Humans will direct this office. Its purpose will be to prevent discrimination and ensure all species, especially younger ones, have equal rights and representation. The Zytherian delegate's crystalline body flashed with anger. They want to police our internal affairs? They want to prevent another expulsion, the Ixian delegate countered. After what we did to them, can you blame them? Vorn continued reading. Term 4. Humanity will provide the requested assistance to repair critical systems and stabilize Council space. However, all human specialists will be paid at premium rates. The Council will fund human research, education, and development programs for the next 50 years. They're making us pay for our own rescue, someone muttered. We should have thought of that before we expelled them, another replied. Term 5. The Galactic Council will issue a formal public apology to humanity. This apology will be broadcast across all Council space. It will acknowledge that humanity's expulsion was unjust, that human contributions were undervalued, and that the Council acted out of prejudice and fear. Silence fell over the chamber. A public apology. An admission of guilt to the entire galaxy. The humiliation would be complete. Vorn lowered the display. These are humanity's terms. We have 1 hour to vote. If we reject them, humanity returns to Earth. If we accept, human specialists will begin deployment immediately to save our failing systems. This is extortion, the Velcrin representative protested. They're exploiting our crisis. No, the Dalari delegate said quietly. They're ensuring this never happens again. They're making certain that the next time the Council feels threatened by different ideas, by questions, by change, there will be consequences. The Plenthori delegate's jellyfish body pulsed thoughtful colors. These terms will fundamentally alter the power structure of the Council. The oldest species will no longer have absolute control. Maybe that's exactly what we need, the Ixian said. Look at what our absolute control achieved. We nearly destroyed ourselves. Vorn called for the vote. All in favor of accepting humanity's terms. The chamber filled with lights. Blue for yes, red for no, gray for abstain. This time the pattern was different from the expulsion vote. Blue dominated. Species after species voting to accept. The Dalari bright blue. The Ixian blue. Even the Plenthori who had abstained before voted yes. The Zytherians voted red. So did the Velcrin. A few others followed. But they were a small minority now. When the count finished, the result was clear. 782 votes to accept. 89 votes to reject. 33 abstentions. Humanity's terms were approved. Vorn felt something inside him break. Pride perhaps. Or the illusion of superiority. 10,000 years of galactic order reshaped in a single vote. The terms are accepted, he announced. Transmit our agreement to Earth. And begin preparations for the public apology. 24 hours later, human ships began arriving in Council space. Not warships this time. Not military vessels. But cargo haulers, engineering ships, medical frigates. Hundreds of them carrying thousands of specialists. At Core Station 3, Commander Rylax watched as a human engineering team materialized on his bridge. They were led by a woman named Dr. Lisa Park, sister of the doctor who had once run the multi-species clinic. Show me your systems, Lisa said without preamble. We need to stabilize the load balancing before this station tears itself apart. Within 6 hours, Core Station 3 was operating normally again. The human engineers didn't just fix the immediate problem. They taught Rylax's crew how the systems actually worked. How humans had been managing the complexity. How to maintain it themselves. Why are you teaching us? Rylax asked. You could keep this knowledge to yourselves. Make us dependent on you. Lisa smiled. Because that's not who we are. We want partners, not dependents. We want a galaxy that works together, not one that needs us to survive. Similar scenes played out across Council space. Human doctors arrived at outbreak sites, bringing not just treatments but training. Human analysts helped restore security networks while teaching Velcrin officers their methods. Human logistics experts unjammed trade routes while explaining their algorithms. Everywhere humans went, they fixed and they taught. They helped and they educated. The Galactic Council broadcast their public apology on the 7th day of humanity's return. Chancellor Vorn stood before cameras transmitting to trillions of beings across hundreds of worlds. His voice was heavy with shame. The Galactic Council hereby formally apologizes to humanity. We expelled you from our community without just cause. We judged you as disruptive when you were actually essential. We saw your questions as threats when they were gifts. We acted out of prejudice, fear, and pride. He paused, forcing himself to continue. We have learned at terrible cost that strength comes in many forms. That wisdom can emerge from young species. That challenging old ways is not disrespect but growth. Humanity showed us this. And we responded by exiling you. We were wrong. Profoundly, catastrophically wrong. And we beg your forgiveness. On Earth, Sarah Chin watched the broadcast with President Adeyemi. Do you forgive them? The president asked. Sarah was quiet for a moment. I understand them. They were scared. Change is frightening, especially when you've had power for 10,000 years. They saw us questioning their methods and felt threatened. That doesn't excuse what they did. No, Sarah agreed. But understanding and forgiveness aren't the same thing. I understand why they acted as they did. Whether I forgive them, that will take time. Maybe a long time. Months passed. The crisis stabilized. Core stations operated smoothly. Disease outbreaks were contained. Trade routes flowed efficiently. The Kresh invasion was repelled by a joint Council human military operation. Slowly, carefully, Council space healed. Ambassador Chin returned to her position in the Council chamber. But this time she sat on the executive board, eye level with the most powerful species in the galaxy. Beside her sat 2 other human representatives. When debates began, humans asked their questions, challenged assumptions, proposed alternatives. And this time the Council listened. Really listened. Not because they wanted to. Because they had learned the cost of not listening. One day young Tila, the Dalari nurse who had worked with Dr. James Park, sent a message to Earth. She had enrolled in a human medical school, studying multi-species treatment protocols. She wanted to continue the work Park had started. Dr. Park always said every patient matters, Tila wrote. Even if it's difficult. Even if no one else cares. Thank you for teaching us that. Thank you for coming back when we needed you, even after we hurt you. Sarah read the message and felt something warm in her chest. Hope, perhaps. The galaxy was changing. Slowly. Painfully. But changing. And this time humanity would be there to guide that change. Not as outsiders. Not as disruptors. But as full partners in building a better future. The Council had banished humanity, thinking the galaxy would be better without them. Instead, they discovered what humanity had been all along. Not a threat to order but the foundation of it,